You're listening to the Visibly Fit podcast. Hey, I'm your host, Wendie Pett, and every week I'll give you holistic, practical solutions for everyday issues related to nutrition, healing, functional fitness, and behavior modifications. As a naturopath, fitness expert, and wellness coach for over 20 years, my goal is to empower you to reach for greater health and to rise up to your next level of living in mind, body, and spirit. You were created with greatness in mind. It's time to own it. Are you with me? Then let's dive in. Hey there, it's Wendie Pett with Visibly Fit, and I have my friend with me, Dawn Yor, and she is up in Canada, and she just completed the Visibly Fit 7-week accelerator program, and I'm so proud of her. I'm proud of all of my students that have gone through and accomplished so much, but Dawn has a beautiful and unique story, and I just wanted her to share with you kind of where she started before starting Visibly Fit and how she felt. And then we'll talk through the progression and what you're experiencing today. So Dawn, why did you even decide I need to do something different?
Yeah, so multiple reasons. The one being that I just really didn't feel like my insides were matching my outsides. I felt like a whole, complete, confident, God-loving, people-loving person on the inside, but I felt like my outside was really dragging me down. I felt just not where I should have been, not as healthy as I should have been, and as a result, not as happy as I should have been. The other thing that was a huge factor, I was plagued with pain from endometriosis.
How long
I've
have you
spent,
suffered from
oh,
endometriosis?
decades
Mm.
since my baby was born. She's now 21. So it's been a long time. And I recently had surgery and thought that that was the answer for me, recently being about 6 months ago now. And there was still, which I knew there would possibly still be a residual pain, where I would be at work and, I had to purchase a stand-up desk because the back pain from the endometriosis lesion sitting on my spine was so painful. So those are kind of, and I just didn't feel like I was participating in life the way that I should be able to at this stage in life.
And probably that you wanted to, right? You were more
Mhm.
kind of on the sidelines a little bit.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. And so that can be debilitating. And so I'm so glad that we found one another. You're such a dear, sweet friend and soul. And I'm just honored to know you and to have coached you. So I'm thinking about how you have progressed in such a short amount of time, in 7 weeks. So you released 16 pounds. It's been a
Mhm.
steady progress, and you've been really committed and dedicated, and that's what it takes. Tell us a little bit about how you feel today, just 7 weeks later, after how you started the program.
Mhm. Yeah, so I feel not a little, a lot more like my insides are matching my outsides. I feel the strength that I have gained. I'm pumping my pipes at people and
Ah.
showing them. I feel actively involved in sports again, where we went paddleboarding and I felt great about that and confident, even about getting into my swimsuit, which has been years of not wanting to let other people see me in.
Mm.
Um, and 16 pounds is not a lot. I'm not a big person to begin with.
Right.
It's 10% of my body weight that I lost, which is huge.
Yeah. But it's about health.
But yeah, and about baseball, I spent, my family had a baseball game just a weekend ago, and normally I'd be, checking out mentally because I didn't feel equipped or strong enough or capable but I'm the oldest of all of my siblings, and all of us went out and I got on the field, and it felt really like, yeah, I'm playing. So just a burst. The strength brought back confidence.
Mm,
It's not just about the weight loss. That
right.
was great, that I'm feeling better about those things, but even more so, I love the strength that it's given me. And then the other
So
thing
you
I
love
wanted
those
to touch
visibly fit
on,
exercises, huh?
yeah, I do. And I wanted to touch on just the capacity that it has created in me emotionally to be there for other people in ways that I wasn't before.
Mm.
I work hard on loving people, really hard. Um, Not that it's hard work, but I just really want to love people
Yes, you've
well.
got a big heart.
And it has made even that so much, I have so much more capacity for patience and grace and love for other people, which I just, yeah, it's all one big circle that's coming together now, and I love that.
Oh, it's so beautiful. It is a holistic approach. And
Mhm.
regarding your endometriosis and the pain, where are you now?
Oh, so yeah, shockingly, I was sitting at work a couple weeks ago. I was about 5 weeks into the program, and I was like, oh, I have not stood at my desk, which I should, I know, but I have not had to stand at my desk for weeks. And just it was gone without me even recognizing that it was gone. And that was just the coolest thing. And I've not had it return.
You have
So
not had the
that's
pain return. I mean, that's huge,
no, I
Dawn. That's like
had,
freedom.
yeah, sorry, I'm going to get graphic because everybody, this is the
Go
world
for
we
it,
live in.
sister.
And
Go for it.
um, so my cycles were the best that they have ever been, ever. I went through my cycle during the program and thought, this is amazing.
Mm,
How if this is how it's supposed to happen, I can do this.
mm,
Versus in the past, I would be debilitated in bed for a day or two, just because
right.
I could not even function through the pain.
Right, right. Oh my gosh, Don, like that right there just gets me so excited for you and your family. Like, let's talk about
Mhm.
how this has changed maybe the dynamics of your family. What does your husband think? What about your kids?
Yeah, so my daughter was already a little bit, she's very environmental sustainability is one of her courses in post secondary. So she's very pro vegan, pro gluten free, non GMO. She's already kind of educated us a little bit on that. So, not such a change for her.
Hmm.
But my boys, my husband and my son, who's 23, um, had to eat for the 7 weeks along with me because I was not cooking differently. And they could have done it on their own, but they chose not to. And I was so surprised how many times they were like, I can do this. In
Wow.
real life, I can do this. I don't feel like I need to add a steak or add a meat to this plate. I feel full. I feel great. Now, my son is 23 and a 2x4. And he said, Mom, I can't lose any more weight.
Oh, hilarious, hilarious. He's gonna have to eat
Too
more.
cute. Yeah. But anyway, they're doing great. They're loving it. They're doing it alongside me. We're now through the 7 weeks and we're continuing.
That's so
Um,
good, Don.
yeah, so great.
I'm just so proud of you because, typically women are the nucleus of the family when it comes to
Mhm.
nutrition and going grocery shopping and all those things. So the what you have brought to the table and taking care of yourself is allowing your husband and your children to be healthier and more equipped for what God has called them to do as well. And so, way to go, sister. Way to be
Mhm.
that
Thanks.
woman in the family that is just standing up for you and your family's health. So, anyway, I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing
Thanks.
and but just being authentic. I just love you dearly.
It was
Super proud of you.
so lovely. So lovely. So worth it.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Well, I wanted to start out with that testimony. Dawn has such a great story, but we are going to be talking all about inflammation, and inflammation is a big buzzword right now, and it has been for the last several years, but rightfully so. And just as you heard from Dawn, the over 20 years that she has dealt with endometriosis, which is an underlying issue of inflammation, long-term inflammation in the body, it's amazing what just a short amount of time of doing the proper things for your body as far as food and exercise and de-stress and all the things and thinking in a positive way and all those great things can change the trajectory of your life. And so I hope that her story gave you hope. Not only you don't have to have endometriosis to relate. If you have any kind of issue that is going on in your body that you are dealing with, whether it's gut issues or any kind of arthritis or autoimmune issues, heart disease, cancer, let this still encourage you because most disease starts because of inflammation. In fact, It all does. It just really does. But I want to read the definition of inflammation. And it says a localized physical condition in which part of the body becomes reddened, swollen, hot, and often painful, especially as a reaction to injury. So usually that's not always, but an acute kind of inflammation. If it's like a small little injury or scrape, that would be acute inflammation. We need inflammation for the body to heal itself, right? Or even an infection, because that's signaling your cells to go and get rid of pathogens in your body. So inflammation is good, but we don't want long-term inflammation. And so many things can cause inflammation. I know we've talked about this before a little bit on this podcast, but I wanted to dive in a little bit deeper and to share Don's story because I think it will offer hope to you. But when our cells are fully, they're damaged because of the toxins in which we are living in, right? The air in which we've been breathing, just a toxic environment emotionally or mentally, spiritually, or even, of course, the foods in which we are fueling our body can cause our cells to break down. And even if it's a trauma related issue, it can cause damage to the cells, physical and emotional trauma. And it really can cause inflammation to stir up in our body. And what that does is it actually leaks and releases a chemical that goes out into the tissues, and it causes swelling and it contributes to aches and pains. And that long term chemical release into the cells, that's when receptors are turned on, and that's when it starts feeding those cells that we don't want to be fed, the cancer cells, the autoimmune issues, the heart disease. We want those white blood cells to go to work and fight off those pathogens and not feed any kind of cells that we don't want activated, right? So, buzzword or not, inflammation is important to look at. We have to look at it. So, how do you do that? Maybe you've never taken a test, a blood test, a C reactive protein test. It's also CRP. Um, it's very simple. You can just go to your doctor, or you could work with me and we can get you tested. And it's very minimal in cost, but it gives you it's a good biomarker to find out where you are in with your inflammatory response right now. What is this marker that you have currently? Because we don't know if we need to get healthier or be better until we have an indication or knowledge of where we're starting, right? So getting that biomarker is important. Now, if you get this tested, again, it's a simple blood test and it's CRP, C reactive protein test, and they will let basically you want it to be under 1 milligram per liter. That's going to be like a healthy biomarker. So under one. Now, if it's between the range of 1 and 3, it means you are at risk of disease if you don't take care of the inflammatory issue. And then if it's like way off the charts, if it's like 8, 10, 12, I've seen 14. I mean, I've seen some pretty high inflammatory markers. It's a pretty good sign that you may have cancer in your body, maybe bone disease. It could be, lupus. It could be a number of things, arthritis flare up. It could be a multitude of things, but it's something to really look at and consider. So that's so important. And that C reactive protein is actually a substance that is produced by the liver, and that's in response to inflammation. So it's a great way to get this read by the organ that is our major detox organ, right? It gives us a really good read. So looking at that CRP is important. Now, one of the things that inflammation does, and again, yes, it's a big, big buzzword, but I believe with everything going on in the world today and with the recent past pandemic, we want to keep our immune system healthy, and we want to keep inflammation out of our body, the long-term chronic inflammation, so that our bodies can fight for the way it's supposed to be living, and that's healthy and healed, and not a sick, depressed, um, ache, aches and pain, disease state. Okay, we do not want dis-ease. We want body with ease. So what happens whenever our body is inflamed? it actually attacks and it goes after the cells of our blood vessels, right? So those endothelial cells that surround the blood vessels, they are usually pretty tight and they don't allow any penetration, right? There's nothing that can really permeate that unless needed, right? But whenever your body is inflamed and there's toxins in your body, then those cells start to separate a little bit, and then what happens is fluid leaks out from the blood and into your tissue, and that fluid is like plasma protein and lectin and that kind of thing, and then that's when you start to feel pain because it's your body is trying to figure out what's going on. This isn't right, this isn't normal. And so when the endothelial cells are activated during this injury or due to toxins in your body, they basically produce more white blood cells. Okay, because white blood cells are like those frontline um, on the front lines of an army, that they are ready to attack and they want to get rid of those pathogens, those toxins in the body that shouldn't be there. And what happens is honestly there's just too much production of white blood cells, and they end up actually partnering, if you will, with the other side, and end up partnering with maybe cancer cells and other toxins that are in your body because of this over mass production. And it's a problem. And they, what was meant for good, their idea was to go and clot the area with blood clots so that that infection doesn't continue to spread in your body. But there's just a mass production, and then with the inflamed endothelial cells, you know that fluid is being leaked into the tissue, and it's like, oh my goodness, it's like never ending. And so they kind of get confused, those white blood cells. That's the way I kind of see it. They get confused like, what side am I on? And they end up partnering with the wrong team, and can cause havoc on your body. So we want to make sure that we do not destroy those endothelial cells, so that there is no way for that fluid to leak out from your blood and into your tissues. And that's why it's so important that we know how to fuel our body best, and how to de-stress, and how to live in a healthy environment. And maybe you're in a place where you don't have a choice. Maybe the air quality is bad, but there are things that you can do, right? Like even having plants in your home. You can get air purifiers. You can do what you can do. So make sure you don't just say, well, it is the way it is. Do the best that you can with your environment. But also, there are things that you can do that can increase and reduce inflammation, such as cryotherapy. I've done cryotherapy before. It's basically dry ice, and it's cold, but it's awesome, and it really does help decrease inflammation. And it also helps, of course, with that inflammation decrease. It decreases pain, headaches, swelling, that kind of thing. Also, infrared saunas, floating. I love floating, actually, in a big bath of basically magnesium water. So think of like the Dead Sea, right? And how people just float. That's basically what you do. It's like the Dead Sea, and you're floating, and you get a massive amount of magnesium absorbed into your skin, but it's also detoxifying, and um, it's a way to decrease that inflammation, because magnesium is a source that most people are deprived of and depleted of. And so that these are kind of things that help. But the biggest thing, of course, is fueling your body with the right foods. And so I've talked to you before on episode 7 about food for thought. A lot of those foods for thought are foods that will rid your body of inflammation. So go back and listen to that one for more details. But mainly it's like, eat your greens, eat and drink your greens, from spinach to collard greens to kale to bok choy. All of it is massively important to help reduce inflammation. Nuts and seeds and legumes and beans and gosh, healthy fats like avocados and I mentioned nuts already, so those are some great healthy fats. I love cashews, but I can't eat too many of them. They're like dessert to me. I love cashews. But also, a lot of times people are just depleted in glutathione. They can get a supplement of glutathione, but most people have a hard time absorbing that glutathione, and that can actually be helpful if you do like an IV of glutathione. So check in your area and see if maybe you've got a naturopath in your area that does the IV drips, or you have someone that a doctor that can help you with that. But that can help reduce inflammation. But the biggest thing, of course, is making sure you're exercising and you're not just sitting on the couch and watching TV, and making sure that you're moving your body, but also making sure that you are thinking positive and happy and healthy thoughts, because life and death is in the power of the tongue. And so as we're speaking and as we're thinking, it our cells know what we are thinking. They just do. So we need to hold every thought captive. We really need to know that, wow, okay, this thought is negative. And I mean, we're all going to have negative thoughts, right? But it's about pushing it out a lot quicker and having a faster rebound of positivity and truth and scripture verses and whatever you like to use for that. I like to use scripture verses for that truth. But it's important to continue to flood your mind with those powerful truths and positivity, because again, your cells are listening and they respond accordingly. So that's important. Getting outside and being in nature, that's important. That can really help you de-stress. And a lot of times people are majorly inflamed because they have chronic stress issues. And stress is a big deal. We are overworked, most of us, and underpaid and overstressed and all the things. But you're in more control of your health than you realize. So you get to put up healthy boundaries and say, no, wait a minute, I deserve to take a break. I deserve to go for a walk around the office or get outside for just 3 to 5 minutes and just breathe in some fresh air and just decompress. And I promise your blood pressure will go down, inflammation will go down. Again, it's not just like a one and done thing. Regarding inflammation, it's kind of a conquer and layer thing. There's many um, uh, reasons for inflammation, but it's doing it all. And I'm not saying doing it all right. Like we're none of us are perfect, but it's doing the best that we can so we can reduce the inflammation, so that our body can actually act the way it's supposed to, and it can combat those pathogens as opposed to partnering with them and causing dis-ease in our body later. So there's a few herbal remedies that I like. Again, remember, there's not just a one thing. It's not a quick pill. It's not a quick fix. It's eating well. It's eating whole food, plant based. It's de-stressing. It's sleeping well, having good relationships, walking, being in nature, all these things, right? So don't just think I'm going to tell you here's a quick pill or oil or tincture to take, but I do have some in my repertoire of things that I suggest, because again, it's a conquer and layer kind of thing. And it's an addition of ways that you can heal your body naturally. And so I've talked about these before, but anti-inflammatory spices are huge. I'm a big fan of cayenne pepper and cinnamon and turmeric, ginger, um, garlic. All those are really, really great. There's also fenugreek. Fenugreek is a great one. If you're looking for some omega 3s and some healthy fatty acids, um, I would recommend evening primrose oil, EPO. That's awesome. I also recommend just some seeds for that, like hemp seeds or chia seeds. A lot of times people are overloaded on the omega 6, which omega 6 fatty acids really are major contributors to inflammation. So we need to get that ratio of omega 3 and 6 regulated. And so most people need more omega 3s in their diet. So that's fatty fish if you eat fish. It is making sure you have, gosh, just like I said, the nuts and the seeds and all of that is so important. And bringing in those omega 3s will help a lot. Now, another one that I suggest for a lot of my clients when they ask it or need it is cramp bark. That's a really good one. That's a really good um, anti-inflammatory, and you can get it in pill format. That's fine. You can do tinctures. Willow. elderberry. A lot of people are very familiar with elderberry, and a lot of people are making their own elderberry syrup, and that's fantastic. That'll really help to boost the immune system and reduce inflammation. But another one that is very popular, mainly in the oil sense, is frankincense. But I really recommend the boswellia resin. So it's basically the sap from that bark, and that's going to be a stronger. I mean, the oil you don't want to take orally. The oil is just to go on your skin. If you're doing, whatever your favorite oil company is, I'm not going to recommend one here, but I do love frankincense on so many different levels. I do love the oil. I do love the tinctures, the teas, and also even in the capsule format. But it's the sap, it's the resin, it's the more potent quality of that frankincense, and it's boswellia. So check that out. That really does help reduce inflammation, and a lot of people are even taking it if they are dealing with osteo arthritis, or also osteoporosis. I think that they've really been, you know, seeing a lot of results if you're taking that as far as medical concerns. Well, that's a wrap for today's show, so thank you so much for tuning in. I love spending this time with you. To learn more and get more free resources, just head on over to wendiepett.com, and thank you in advance for sharing this episode and this podcast, following and subscribing, not only to this podcast, but finding me on social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you are, I'm probably there too. Until next week and our next podcast time together, make it a visibly fit day.